All right. Well, we are straight up on the hour, 11 a.m. here on the West Coast. So I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Mylio Photos Coffee Break. My name is Angela Andrieux, and I'm a product evangelist for Mylio. That means that my job is to help you be successful with the software. I write a lot of our documentation, and I do a lot of our education, webinars, and things like that. And today I'm joined by Matthew. He's one of our senior support specialists. And he's going to walk us through some of the things you can do to help make sure your Mylio account and your Mylio app is properly maintained and things continue to work smoothly as you go through months and years of hopefully using Mylio Photos. So welcome, Matthew. So glad you're able to join us today.
Thanks, Angela. Glad to be here. Let me get the share screen started and we can jump right into different ways to keep your Mylio account maintained.
Awesome.
So I'm going to just keep a running list right here on the left-hand side as we kind of go through all the different things that you can do to kind of keep your account cleaned up. So starting with any extra devices you may have, or if you've had to reset a device for any number of reasons, you may come up with some of these devices where they have like 2 and 3 added to the name. So if you were looking to rename any devices, you can open up the dashboard. In the current version of Mylio, it's written right across the top, but it's in the same order on the new version here. In the dashboard, in the devices section, you can select a device, and then you could actually rename the device.
So just want to pop in for a quick second. And if you're noticing things look a little bit different, that's because Matthew's using a beta version of our upcoming release. You guys will be getting this rolled out to you within a few weeks. You're getting a sneak peek here at some of the new look and feel coming to Mylio Photos very soon.
Functionally, everything that I am showing is in the exact same place on the current version. Just, perfect. Yeah, it looks tweaked a little bit. So you can rename the device that you want to keep, and then for any devices that you no longer want to keep, you can unregister them from your account. So I could see like this one has not been online since September, and this one also. So these are something we just want to unregister. Another way that you can get to that window to remove devices is from the sync panel. If you were to click on the device icon in the sync panel, you will get these same options here where you can rename a device or you can unregister a device. You don't even have to jump into the dashboard. However, the next setting that I'm showing you is also in the dashboard. So one of the next things that we see that may need some sort of upkeep, depending on how much storage your device has, especially if you've been traveling with a laptop and importing a lot of photos from your camera, the full-size originals are on that device while you're traveling, while that's imported. So that's something where once they've synced out to another device, we can clear those from the computer and save that space. So one thing that you can check if Mylio has stopped syncing is in this device storage section is the minimum free space. So within all these storage info, we can see that we have 361 gigabytes available here. And Mylio is set up to stop syncing when this computer gets to 132 gigabytes. So I still have a little bit of space, but if you don't, you can see that the graph started to change too. So now Mylio is in a state where it would no longer sync if this were to be applied. I believe even a notification appeared saying that Mylio cannot sync because of storage limitations. Disk storage full, yes. So that could be one way where if you're just noticing your device is not syncing, just check and you know that you're kind of low on storage, just even manipulating this setting just a little bit could be enough to just get things going again, get everything synced. Which you can then dive into some of these other things, like if you wanted to change the sync policy of your device, That is also another thing that you can do. This device is set up to sync all previews and thumbnails. But if I was really trying to optimize as much space as possible and say, I really would like to only sync thumbnails, I'm going to choose to reset the device quality, which will also change any of my folder sync policies. If for some reason I have a custom sync folder policy set somewhere. So with it reset, I can say be thumbnails only and apply. Which then, to finally get to the part where you free up the space on your device, is when you would use this clear cache function. So media is considered cached when Mylio has it, but the sync policy says that I don't want it. So in this particular window here, it says that there's 6,200 previews that it can remove from my computer to try and free up space. And it says 70 originals may be eligible. If these originals have not synced to another device, they will not be removed from the computer. But if they have synced, then they will get moved to the trash. So we'll say, yes, we want to clear the cache, and we'll let that run. And while that's running, you can actually watch the sync panel, and the preview will change from like a squiggly line to the gray line. And as the cache is cleared, that line will continue to kind of just move to gray. Some of the other things that you may see when trying to clean up your Mylio account or your Mylio library are lost originals. Lost originals are files that were imported into Mylio, but then something happened where none of the devices have an original any longer. The number one reason that we see it is screenshots on phones. Take a screenshot, whether accidentally or even just temporarily, and you opened up Mylio, and then you get the Mylio says, oh, it's here, and it gets a bunch of information about the file, and then you delete it from the phone. Mylio lives in this limbo where it says this file existed. It might come back on that phone, but it's already been deleted. So they become something called lost originals. You can find lost originals from the dashboard by clicking on this device, and there's even a nice little search to show you the media. If they are something that you really wanted to keep for, you can, and there is a preview, you can export the preview to kind of retain all of the metadata. Otherwise, most of the time they are duplicates or something you meant to delete anyway, and they can be deleted. Another thing to kind of look for while you're cleaning up old devices and you're trying to make sure that everything is synced is to see what is classified as unprotected. So an unprotected file means that it has not synced to all of the Vault devices. So that could mean that it's synced to some, but not others, or it's only synced to one or all but one. It varies depending on the sync status of your devices, but the dashboard also provides a search for what those media are. And you can even use the sync panel to tell you which device has it to bring online to sync. So if I were to select like this one photo here, I can use the sync panel, and in this original column, I can see the MacBook Pro is the device I need to bring online in order to sync this. And it will want to sync to these other devices. You can also select all if you just want to look at a general overview of all of the selected media. So it looks like my MacBook Pro is the one that I really want to bring online. Or if you have the chance, bring them all online.
We have a couple of questions in the chat. If you
Sure.
jump back over here, so you're in the dashboard right now. If you jump up to actions, you've got the circle there with the blue 1. Deb is asking, how do you remove that?
This one is telling me to protect my files because I have a few vaults that are not up to date. So to get rid of that one, I would need to sync my files and just get those vaults synced.
Perfect.
I think I have to take the store now.
And then Larry would like to know, can you explain the squiggly green line?
Sure. The squiggly green line is the cached media. So if the sync policy for a device, so like I set this one to only want thumbnails, and then I did clear the cache, so I'm not going to have any squiggles. But this Galaxy A13 is set up to only want to sync the thumbnails, but the squiggles indicate that it does have previews synced to it. So the sync policy says I do not want them, but it does have them. That can happen for a number of reasons. It could be that the sync policy for the device was changed after it had already synced the previews. It could also be that those are previews that I requested to download on that device because I was viewing them and I wanted them to not be blurry, or even the Mylio's sync on demand feature could have brought them over because they were photos I was actively using.
Peter would like to know, when show files to sync gets stuck, what is the command to force sync?
There are some Mylio console commands that you can run, but most of the time you shouldn't need to. One trick that you can always try is applying an edit to a photo. And then you can use Control-Z or Command-Z to undo the edit if you obviously didn't want the edit. But applying an edit forces Mylio to regenerate a thumbnail in preview, which a lot of times can get syncing going again. If it's only one or two media or a handful of media, you can also try just removing them and re-importing them from Mylio. But if you do get to the point where you want to start investigating the Mylio console to run the commands, I would recommend at that point checking out the Mylio forum or reaching out to support. I don't know if providing those is kind of within the scope of what we planned on talking about today.
I think that's a good answer. Paul asks, how can I have a photo where the originals are on my vaults, but not on any of my devices?
That would be just making sure that each device has the sync policy set up that you want. So if you want to make sure like this device is set up as, thumbnails are optimized, but other devices are set up as a vault. That's how you can make sure that Mylio is set up to only sync the full-size originals to the devices that will have the storage capacity for them.
I think you might also be asking if there's a way to have images that are not on certain devices. And the short answer there is you're going to have thumbnails and metadata for everything. There's no way to exclude certain media from syncing that bare minimum. And it takes up a very, very small amount of space, but those will always be synced.
Yeah, all thumbnails is the minimum sync policy. At this time, there's not a way to hide folders from devices. But it is something that we get requests for pretty frequently. I would recommend checking out the forum and making sure that you add your vote to that feature request, because I know that there's a topic on it there.
Okay, good idea. And then Danny asks, should all linked folders be the same in every vault?
The linked folders that you see are like when you click on folder view twice, whatever folders you see there it should be the same across all devices. The locations for these folders may vary depending on which ones are set up as linked folders or which ones are like Mylio created, like the inbox or the Apple Photos folders.
And I just put a link to the article from the manual set. It's called Your File System in Mylio Photos. So if you're curious about the different files and folders that Mylio creates across your different devices, this does a really good job of explaining why certain things are created and what those folders mean and what they're doing there. So I encourage you to check out that link as well. All right, I think we're caught up on chat questions. Keep them coming, but Matthew, go ahead and continue back with where you were.
Yeah, then when thinking about ways to kind of keep Mylio up to date and anything that I would think of as maintenance, just new media workflow did come up like kind of repeatedly, and different things that I could show off, such as auto folder organizing or renaming files. I think renaming files is a much bigger one than, I don't know, than I thought of originally. But as we continue to have more and more iPhones in our lives, we continue to get more and more IMG_0001s. And files with the same name living in the same folder is not a great idea. They will always get renamed by the file system. So being able to have unique names for your files is, I think, a great tool. And Mylio can use the metadata of your files to generate those new names. Just to kind of quickly show, some of these already have been, but like these have not. If you were to select multiple files, you can right click and choose to rename files. And Mylio has some great pre-made options for you. Year, month, day, and sequence is usually sufficient for most, but if you wanted to get into something a little bit more detailed, like Android phones use like a year, month, day, and then hour, month, seconds kind of name, which does help make sure that every photo is unique. If you are having hundreds or thousands of photos in a single folder. Just to kind of give you a quick, I don't know if anyone wants to screenshot that or capture that, but that one will do year dash month dash day dash, and then lowercase t is time, hour, month, seconds. So by applying that, that will put all of that metadata in there. And if you wanted to put a sequence afterwards, that is also available. And if you're on Windows, we do offer zero padding because of how File Explorer sorts with leading zeros. If you're on Mac OS, you don't need the zero padding. And you can just put in your sequence. Now when they're renamed, I put in a regular parenthesis, not the squiggly parenthesis, but you get year, month, day, time as the file name.
So one thing worth noting here is there isn't an undo. So once you do this action to rename files, they have been renamed. But if you get something wrong, like you get the wrong character in there, you can always do the rename again and fix it that way.
Yes, because it's using the metadata of the file, we can just rerun the process. There we go. So another thing that you may end up doing after renaming your files is wanting to organize them. Mylio does have a tool to auto-organize based on the date as well. I don't know, I changed my folder view of what I had queued up, but so what you can do is on the user testing library. This function can only be run on a folder itself. You can't just select individual media to then organize. So when kind of working on a workflow for it, either choosing a folder, like name it like to be sorted or something like that to just put everything in, or using the Mylio clipboard is a great option too, where you can just add whatever media you start finding. You're like, okay, great, I have all these. Now I also had an empty folder that I'm just going to use. And say paste. Great. So all the ones that I wanted to sort are now here in this folder. And I'm sorted by date, so everything just moved. Here we go. And you right click on a folder. You can then choose more folder actions and organize folders. And in here, we kind of have a similar thing to the rename files where we can sort by year and month, or we can just do a year. Or if you wanted to do something custom with its own file hierarchy and all that, you can build it. But year and month is definitely the most common. And looking at the 6 files I grabbed, we should be seeing a 2007 and a 2009 folder being created from this. Yeah, so 2007, 8, and 9 were created and sorted from this process. And then looks like most of what I grabbed was 2008. And then within each of those folders, we have a month and the media within each of the months. Once you have everything sorted, if you wanted to change the cover photo or set any cover photos, like this is the one I would rather see for the folder for 2008. You can do that. So you can change the cover photo so that now, instead of being the clown, we now have that as the cover photo for 2008. And then as part of just kind of sorting and culling your photos, if you have anything that's marked as rejected, it'd be a great time to filter for those and look for those and delete them as they've been rejected. Or if you've changed your mind and you're like, all right, maybe it's not that bad of a photo, you can unreject it.
Before we go off too far on deleting rejected photos, Kirk asked, does that only change the folder name in Mylio or in the folder's original place in your files?
The folder view in Mylio is the folder view of the file system. So changing that in Mylio will change it in File Explorer or Finder.
Let's see here. Danny says, when looking at JPEGs and folders, some of the photos are very low quality of the same photo. What is the best way of removing low-grade small files across folders? Any suggestions there? So
say maybe the Find Similar Photos tool would be a good way to start to see if maybe it is a low-res version of something else that you already have that is a higher res version, whether the one that you have in the folder is from an iMessage or text or something, but someone also had emailed you a much better version.
Yeah, so that relies on the metadata and the timestamp that's in the photo. So what Find Similar Photos does is it groups together pictures that were taken within a certain time frame. So you can find things that are similar that way. So our deduplication tool only looks for exact duplicates. So it's not going to flag things that are a smaller version of the same picture. It's going to only look for exact duplicates, which means the same file size, the same pixel size, and so forth.
Mylio does look for metadata differences, but resolution and scale, everything else needs to be identical.
There is a question also about how do you reject files? So that's a great question. So we have two different flags that you can use in Mylio. You have a pick flag and you have a reject flag. The quickest and easiest way on a computer to add a reject flag is to use the X keyboard shortcut. And the quickest way to add a pick flag is to use the P keyboard shortcut. And then you have the ability, once you've gone through and marked things as rejected, you can go up to the organize menu and say, delete all rejected photos, and that'll get rid of them. I'm going to go ahead and pop a article into the chat here about this as well. There we go. All right.
And yeah, you can show and hide that from the ratings bar in the top right corner. That looks like a little tag.
Excellent.
All right. And then the last point I had was just to make sure that Mylio is up to date. On Windows computers, that is accessible from the help menu. On Mac OS, I believe you have to go to the Mylio Photos menu across the top. That's right next to the File and Apple menu.
Yep. And that is, kind of a reminder. So keep an eye out for pop-ups in early to mid-May to run updates. When those updates do come out, it is advisable that you update all of your devices, not just some devices here and others there. You don't have to necessarily do them all at once, but you're going to have the best experience if you do have them all up to date and they're syncing together. So that's something else to consider when a new update comes out. And there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming in this next one, and you'll be getting peeks of it over the next few weeks as well. Any other questions before we wrap up for the day?
I do want to point out that the dashboard will show you the last known running version of Mylio on that device, if you're not sure which ones have been updated.
Good point.
So current version is 7558 for anyone who's just double checking their devices now.
So Paul says, I'm not clear what the numbers below the device name is for the green arrows. So that's a great question. I'm sure Matthew can go into that further, but if you could just mouse over the question mark
Sure.
That's on the one for your computer you're using now, and that'll get you started.
Yeah. So for this particular one, like the MacBook Pro has the show files to sync 10, we do have a search function for that to see what the files are. These appear to just be files that have not synced to this computer, but they do appear to be on my Galaxy that just need to sync. So that, I think the dashboard is a great way to kind of get a quick overview, but the actual details, the sync panel will be able to tell you which device to even bring online. So.
And then let's see here. Paul says, can you show me that again? Paul, can you specify what you're wanting to see again? You feel free to unmute as well.
Yeah, from the dashboard, devices, and then the device you're checking will have show.
Hey Matthew, it's Paul. It's pretty, because you've got some data on the left side of your screen, it's pretty hard to see what you're doing. I'm on a Chromebook. I just wanted you to show me again how you can see which devices have yet to sync for the little up and down green arrows. I missed where your cursor went.
Sure, there's a question mark icon under
the. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. When you click on that, it brings out that little key of what the iconography means.
Yeah.
But actually finding out which photos they are and which device you need to open Mylio on in order to finish syncing is not presented in the dashboard. That's something where performing the search for the media and then using the sync panel, we'll be able to tell you that. So for like this photo, I can see, gray doesn't have it, orange doesn't have it, but wants it. And then we have something that's green. All right, so that device has that original. So that's the one I'd want to go find and open up Mylio on.
Perfect. And then Deb mentioned the blue circle didn't remove and trying it on Actions tab. Any other suggestions? So Deb, it really depends on what the notification is on the Actions tab. So for Matthew, it's just saying that there are files that need to be synced, that there's things that haven't been protected. So once those are fully synced, that notification will go away. But whatever that action is that's recommended on your machine may be something else. It could be that it's asking you to have a second vault. So if you only have one vault, Mylio recommends you have at least two, and that could be that notification there as well. So you'll just have to see which notification it's encouraging, and then we can give you a little bit more information. So if you feel like unmuting and letting us know what the notification is, we can give you a bit better direction.
If you do have a vault that is something that has its own backup built in, you can use this device is backed up regularly to tell Mylio to stop nagging you about adding a second vault when your files are protected just in a different way outside of Mylio. So whether you have like a NAS that's backed up to another NAS, or you use carbon copy cloner to somewhere else that just Mylio doesn't know about, you can use this to remove that notification about adding a second vault.
Awesome. Let's see here. Peter asks, can you explain the best way to manage iOS photos so we can keep all of the photo in Apple Photos Vault, free up space on iOS device? So Peter, what I'm understanding there is you want to get all of your pictures out of your camera roll on your phone and free up the space on your phone. If that's
Correct.
the case, what you're going to want to do is make sure you have Mylio Photos running on that phone. Make sure you leave Mylio open and running on that phone so it has time to ingest all of those pictures and synchronize with your vault, or hopefully more than one vault on your computer. Once that is fully synced, what you can do is go into the settings on your phone and choose the free up space on this device. And I can grab a link for you in the manual that'll walk you through how to do that.
Yeah, on the phone, it's going to be open up the More menu, and then in the settings, it will be below the advanced. So it'll say like free up space on this device.
There we go. 1 second. We've got a few more questions here in the chat. So let me just get this link posted. There we go.
Angela, before you go, can you just then, with that whole situation with the iOS devices and Apple Photos libraries and vaults, how does iCloud Photos fit into that? And what settings should you have so you're not wasting space in iCloud and still maintaining all the things we need?
So what you're going to, that same process, whether they're in your camera roll on your phone or they're in Apple Photos on your computer, it's the same photo in the cloud that you're looking at. So when you do that free up space on this device, that's going to clear out what's in iCloud because Mylio has verified that it's backed up elsewhere on your computer.
Okay, and just one last thing on iCloud. I tried deleting a whole lot of iCloud photos before I was doing all this, and it seemed to indicate that they weren't actually gone for, they don't actually get fully deleted for 30 days. Is that accurate?
I believe so, because Apple Photos has the option for you to basically undo that. So if you delete something on accident, you have, I think, 30 days to put it back.
Yeah.
If you want to permanently be rid of those, what you can do is go into the trash inside of Apple Photos or inside of your camera roll, the Photos app on your phone, go into the trash and say permanently delete. And I believe you can go ahead and clear that out if you're sure those are all needing to be gone.
Yeah, because I seem to have got stuck in iCloud. Now it's run out of space and now I can't even connect to photos.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I would try clearing out the trash, starting there, and then seeing if that, sparks it to start syncing again.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, so how do we upgrade a drive to a bigger drive if we run out of space? Danny, that is super easy. You buy a new drive, you add it to Mylio. So you go up there in the devices and you click that add button and you add it as a vault, and Mylio will start syncing to that particular device. Matthew, what do you suggest they do with the old device that's out of space?
If they want to continue to use it with Mylio, they could change the sync policy to only sync some of the originals. Or yeah, like set up a folder sync policy, so only a certain folder of originals, and then it's like something nice to travel with, where you might not have everything, but at least everything you just shot can sync to somewhere else, just one other place. Or if you want to just not use it with Mylio anymore, you can just unregister it.
You want to make sure if you do that, you have everything synced to the new vault before you unregister.
Yes, Mylio does give a warning if a device has media that has not synced out to another device yet. And you go to unregister it. I have one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Kirk says Mylio says I need 2 vaults, but I have 2 vaults. Any insight there, Kirk? If you want to unmute, you can give us a little bit more information too.
For clearing out that recommended action, I'm not sure. If there is like a little
notification, the notification will say that it needs 2 vaults, but there are 2 vaults that are syncing.
Is that a notification you see up here, like in the bell?
Yeah, you've got the little blue.
Can you try
actions.
clearing the notification, and does it come back?
How do you clear it?
How would you clear it?
That's what we're trying to do. We love to clear it.
There should be a clear all button, because it will show older notifications in there too. So if that notification did appear before you had the second vault, I don't know if it necessarily removes the older notification until it's cleared.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
The other thing to keep in mind is if your 2 vaults are not fully synced, you might still be getting that notification. So if they are in the process of syncing, that could also be an issue of why you're getting that notification.
You don't force it to sync, right?
Okay.
So, and then Deb, I'm guessing, so yours says that notification says protect your files. So that's wanting you to have a secondary vault as well. So if you only have 1 vault, in order to clear that notification, you'll want to either add a secondary vault, or you can go in where Matthew showed you to say this is being backed up elsewhere. So if you're on a Mac and you're using Time Machine, or you have Backblaze backing up to the cloud, or you have a NAS or some other way that you're backing up your system, so you have another backup, you can tell Mylio, hey, I have another backup, you just don't know about it, and that will also clear that notification. Chris asked, should I routinely clear the cache? What do you think, Matthew?
You can clear the cache anytime you want to try and reclaim that space on your device. I don't clear the cache very often, until, I don't know, I've hit a point where I'm like, hey, I do want to free up some space on this device, or this device has now hit a point where space is at a premium. But it's not something that I necessarily actively do on any sort of schedule unless I need to.
Yeah, that's the same for me. Danny asks, is there a way to see what photos have been imported every time you add photos? I believe so. It's, what is the menu for show? There you go, recent media additions. Perfect.
And then it sorts out the import sessions. I think you can also do a search for like import date and just make an entire date if you didn't want it broken down into these individual import sessions.
I think there's something also in the menu for last media added as well, and it'll just take you to a quick search, like a pre-populated search.
Yeah, we have a view called last media added.
There we go. That's the one.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So Michael says, I have had an issue with unsupported files saved in a Mylio vault that ran out of space. Can you speak to unsupported files saved in Mylio vaults?
Unsupported files are files that Mylio cannot seem to read or parse or make a thumbnail or preview for. Yeah, if I search for mine, I'm going to get a lot of these because I have a lot of unsupported cameras in mine. So just, for example, this 14-bit medium raw uncompressed NEF file, Mylio supports NEF files, but this particular encoding and compression method for this, whatever this particular model camera was, they were music files. I'm surprised they were even imported because like .mp3 is not a file type that Mylio supports.
Yeah, there's two different types of unsupported files. You have ones that Mylio can sync, which is going to be like these older camera ones or these camera files that it says, hey, I see that it's a camera file, but we don't fully support this, so it'll synchronize those. And then there's unsupported files that Mylio can't do anything with, and it just leaves them there. It can't sync them either. So there's a couple of different things there.
In this scenario, like with these unsupported cameras, Mylio will still sync the original across to all vaults, even if it can't generate a thumbnail and preview. So if I go and I take this USB drive with me somewhere and I plug it into another computer, I can open up the photos there. I can open that up in whatever app does read it, or use the Adobe DNG converter on it or whatever from there. But if files were attempted to be imported, but they weren't a supported file type, then they shouldn't ever be imported. They would just be flagged as part of the import.
All right, so Paul says under lost originals, Mylio shows one folder. How do I fix that notification and fix the lost originals?
When you do the search across the top here, I think the folders that contain the affected media are shown by default. You'd want to switch to the all photos to actually have it display the media. And then with the lost original, if it's something you wanted to retain, you could export it and try and keep the metadata, and then you'll have a like preview sized version with all of the metadata of the file, but it won't have the full size resolution.
So Peter asks, all of my devices show that they are in sync. However, when I select my primary vault, it says there are 35 unprotected files.
If you do the search for unprotected:true, that should get you the same search results as what you see in the dashboard. If you're seeing that, then there are some files somewhere that haven't synced to all vault devices. So it could be on 2 out of 3 of them. But it's not on all of them if it's showing as unprotected.
All right, here. So Danny says, can you see JPEGs? JPEGs are a fully supported file format. Typically, if a JPEG isn't showing, it might be corrupted. Danny, if you have any other additional information on that, please feel free to unmute and ask. He also asks, how do we swap in and out by rotation an external drive to keep in a fireproof safe but not confuse the system?
You would want to just make sure that each drive that you are planning on using is added as a separate Mylio device. If you were to look at the file system on the external hard drive, Mylio will create a folder named like Mylio_ABC123 or some sort of string of characters and numbers. That folder contains the catalog for that device, so that Mylio treats it as its own separate device. So as you like take one out of the fire safe and plug the other one into the computer and put the other one away, Mylio knows that they are separate devices. And it's like, hey, this one hasn't synced for a while. All of the stuff that has been imported since the last time it synced will then sync to that device, which you can then, after it's done, disconnect and put back in the fire safe.
Perfect.
The bank box or your friend's house or wherever else you may try and keep that offsite.
Yeah, that's a great solution if you don't want to add a cloud service for an offsite backup, is to have a drive that you swap out and you keep not in your permanent, your primary workplace or place of residence. So I know people who have like maybe a travel trailer that they keep on a different part of their property. They keep one of those drives out in the travel trailer and just maybe once a month swap it out. And that's a good way to keep an offsite backup. Are there any other questions before we wrap up for today? Looks like we've gotten everything in the chat. If I missed something, please feel free to unmute and ask your question. But if that's it, I want to thank Matthew for joining us today and sharing his knowledge. This was very helpful, and I hope everybody got a little something out of there to help their Mylio stay clean and running smoothly for many, many months and years to come. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us in the community. We're there to help and make sure you guys are successful. So I want to wish you all a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you next time.